The sun was setting over the jagged mountains of Afghanistan's Kunar province as Commander Marcus Wright signaled his team to halt. SEAL Team 6 had been tracking a high-value target for 3 days through some of the most unforgiving terrain on Earth. Intelligence had indicated a simple in-and-out operation. Intelligence had been catastrophically wrong. Quick pause. Comment where you're watching from. And if you love these stories, hit subscribe now. The next one will blow your mind, and it's even crazier. The first RPG struck without warning, slamming into the rocky outcropping just feet from where Chief Petty Officer James Callahan was positioned. The blast sent him tumbling down the slope as gunfire erupted from 3 directions simultaneously. Wright's mind registered 2 critical facts instantly. They were surrounded, and their communications had gone dead. "Comms check," Wright shouted. Over the escalating gunfire as the team scrambled for cover, nothing but static answered him. Their satellite uplink had been jammed, cutting off their only lifeline to headquarters and air support. Master Chief Dakota Mitchell, the team's medic, was already working on Callahan, whose leg was shredded with shrapnel. "He's losing blood. Fast, Commander," Mitchell reported grimly, applying a tourniquet with practiced efficiency. "SOS all channels," Wright ordered, desperation edging into his voice as he fired back at shadowy figures moving through the rocks above. "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday! SEAL Team 6 requesting immediate extraction. Coordinates follow." But only silence answered. Night fell like a shroud over the valley as Wright led his battered team to an abandoned shepherd's hut built into the side of the mountain. 2 men were wounded now, Callahan seriously, and Petty Officer Ryan Cooper with a bullet through his shoulder. Ammunition was running dangerously low after hours of intermittent firefights with an enemy that seemed to grow in number with each passing hour. "They're waiting us out," said Lieutenant Mark Ramirez, the team's explosives expert, as he checked his magazine. 3 rounds left. "They know we're cut off." Wright nodded grimly. "We move at first light. Make every shot count." 20 miles away at Forward Operating Base Condor, Staff Sergeant Leah Hester sat alone in the communications tent. Her shift officially ended hours ago. Something about the night's radio chatter bothered her, a pattern of dead zones that didn't match the usual atmospheric interference. As the base's premier sniper with 11 confirmed kills beyond 1,000 meters, Hester had developed an almost supernatural ability to detect patterns others missed. She adjusted the frequency slightly, a non-standard channel that sometimes cut through mountain interference. That's when she heard it, a faint broken transmission. A SEAL team, surrounded, no support, no extraction plan. The message repeated 3 times before fading back into static. Hester immediately reported to Captain Reynolds, but his response was immediate and firm. "Negative on rescue ops. Command confirms no SEAL teams operating in that sector. Must be enemy misinformation." But Hester knew better. The authentication codes were valid, just distorted, and she recognized the voice. Commander Wright had once taught advanced marksmanship at her sniper school. She returned to her quarters and methodically prepared her kit. Her custom Macmillan TAC 338 sniper rifle, night vision, minimal survival gear, medical supplies. No permission would be coming. No backup would be authorized. But she couldn't leave them out there to die. Slipping past the perimeter guards was surprisingly easy for someone trained to move unseen. By midnight, Hester was navigating the treacherous mountain paths by starlight, moving at a pace that would have exhausted most Special Forces operators. The terrain was brutal, but she knew these mountains better than anyone. She'd spent 3 years hunting high-value targets across this very range. Dawn was still hours away when she reached a ridgeline overlooking the valley where the SEALs were trapped. Through her thermal scope, she counted at least 30 enemy fighters surrounding a small stone structure, the shepherd's hut where Wright and his team had taken their last stand. With methodical precision, Hester established her. Hyde calculated wind variables and chambered her first round. At 1,500 meters, most snipers wouldn't attempt the shot. But Leah Hester wasn't most snipers. Her first target was the enemy commander, identifiable by the way others deferred to him. The .338 Lapua Magnum round took him cleanly through the head, the report of her rifle echoing across the valley seconds after the man fell. Before the enemy could react, she had dropped 2 more fighters manning a heavy machine gun position. Inside the hut, Commander Wright froze at the distinctive crack of a high-caliber sniper rifle. Someone was out there. Someone was providing. "Overwatch! Return fire!" he ordered his men. "Someone's giving us a window." For the next hour, Hester systematically eliminated enemy fighters from positions they believed unreachable. The confusion among their ranks was palpable as they couldn't locate the source of the devastating fire that seemed to come from the very air itself. When she had created sufficient chaos, Hester moved positions, working her way down to the valley floor through paths the enemy wouldn't expect anyone to navigate in darkness. By first light, she had reached the perimeter of enemy forces and eliminated 4 sentries without making a sound. When she finally slipped through the door of the shepherd's hut, 5 exhausted Navy SEALs raised their weapons in unison. "Staff, Sergeant Leah Hester," she said quietly. "Thought you boys could use some help." Master Chief Mitchell stared in disbelief. "How the hell did you find us? No one answered our SOS." "I did," she replied simply, passing him fresh medical supplies for the wounded. "Now let's get you home." The extraction would be the most dangerous part. Hester had identified a clearing 3 kilometers east that could accommodate a helicopter, but getting there meant crossing territory now swarming with enraged enemy fighters, searching for both them and the mysterious sniper who had decimated their forces. Wright didn't question her plan. He had seen enough to know this woman had accomplished the impossible already. With Hester taking point and Mitchell supporting Callahan, the team began their arduous journey through enemy territory. Twice they encountered enemy patrols. Twice Hester eliminated the threat with such ruthless efficiency that Wright found himself reevaluating everything he thought he knew about combat effectiveness. When they reached the clearing, Hester produced a compact satellite transceiver, one unauthorized for her use, but which she had borrowed from communications before departing. "This is Staff Sergeant Hester, requesting immediate CASEVAC for SEAL Team 6, authentication code Sierra Echo 396. 20 minutes later, the distinctive thump of helicopter rotors echoed through the valley as a rescue chopper appeared over the ridgeline, guided in by the smoke grenade Hester had deployed. As they lifted off under sporadic enemy fire, Commander Wright turned to the woman who had saved his entire team when no one else had answered their call. "Why did you come for us?" he asked. Hester checked her rifle before responding, her eyes still scanning the terrain below. "Because sometimes silence is the only answer you need to hear." The pitch-black canvas of the Syrian night sky offered no comfort to Chief Petty Officer Michael Thornton as he watched his carefully orchestrated mission disintegrate before his eyes. What was supposed to be a surgical strike against a mid-level arms dealer had uncovered something far more significant: a sprawling terrorist compound housing what appeared to be components for chemical weapons. The 6-man SEAL team had moved quickly to document the discovery, but their presence hadn't gone unnoticed for long. The first explosion had taken out their communications specialist, Petty Officer First Class Eric Diaz, and with him, their secure uplink to command. The second had collapsed their primary exfiltration route. Now pinned down in an abandoned cement factory on the outskirts of the compound, Thornton watched as enemy fighters began to establish a perimeter around their position. Their tactical advantage was evaporating by the second. Reynolds. Status. "On comms?" Thornton called over to his second-in-command, who was hunched over their backup radio. Senior Chief Petty Officer Jake Reynolds shook his head grimly. "Nothing, Chief. They're jamming everything. I've tried all emergency frequencies, but we're not getting through." Thornton nodded, his face betraying nothing of the dread building inside him. The reality of their situation was becoming painfully clear. They were on their own. cut off from support, with limited ammunition and at least 24 hostile fighters closing in. As darkness settled completely over the landscape, the team continued sending their SOS signals into the void, met only with static. 5 kilometers away, Lieutenant Alexandra Alex Buchanan crouched motionless on a rooftop, her breathing measured and controlled despite having maintained her position for over 14 hours. The former Marine Scout sniper had transitioned to CIA operations 3 years earlier, specializing in deep cover intelligence gathering in hostile territories. Her current assignment had been simple: observe the meeting between 2 suspected terrorist financiers and report back. That was before her handlers had gone dark 12 hours ago. The abrupt silence from her support team could mean many things, none of them good. In the intelligence world, such silence often meant one thing: disavowal. Something had changed, and Buchanan was now considered expendable. The encrypted emergency beacon on her specialized communications gear suddenly picked up a faint signal, a distress call using Navy SEAL protocols. Buchanan frowned. There weren't supposed to be any SEAL operations in this sector. Her mission brief had explicitly stated she would be the only American asset in the region. She adjusted the frequency, triangulating the signal's origin. The message repeated, broken and distorted, but with authentication codes that couldn't be faked. Someone had stumbled onto something big enough to bring in the SEALs, and now they were in trouble. Buchanan made her decision in seconds. Gathering. Her Barrett M82 rifle and essential gear, she abandoned her observation post. If her own mission was compromised enough for her handlers to cut contact, then the intelligence she could gather from this new development might be her only ticket home. Moving like a ghost through the darkened streets, Buchanan navigated toward the coordinates embedded in the distress signal. Her enhanced thermal optics picked up the unmistakable signature of a firefight in progress, the heat blooms of gunfire forming a rough circle around what appeared to be a defensive position. The SEALs were surrounded, outgunned, and, from what she could tell, rapidly running out of options. Positioning herself on a water tower that offered a commanding view of the battlefield, Buchanan began her work. The first shot from her Barrett took the enemy commander through the chest from 200 meters, the massive .50 caliber round leaving no chance of survival. Before the fighters below could process what had happened, she had eliminated 3 more. High-value targets, men carrying radio equipment or directing others. Inside the cement factory, Thornton and his team registered the distinctive crack of a high-powered rifle, followed by the chaos erupting among their attackers. "Someone's hunting them," whispered Master Sergeant Chris Keller, the team's most experienced sniper. "That's a Barrett M82. No one in this region should have that weapon except us," Thornton finished, a mixture of hope and suspicion crossing his features. "Keep your guard up. This could be another player entering the game." For 30 minutes, the mysterious sniper continued methodical elimination of key enemy positions, creating enough disruption for Thornton to reposition his team to a more defensible location. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the sniper fire ceased. 10 minutes later, a shadow detached itself from the darkness near their position. Thornton's team raised their weapons in unison, fingers on triggers, when a woman's voice cut through. "The tension! I count 6 hostiles approaching from your northwest corner, and your southern exit is compromised," said the voice, calm and measured. "I suggest we dispense with introductions until after we've addressed those issues." Lieutenant Buchanan emerged into their limited light, her face smeared with tactical camouflage, carrying a rifle that most operators only dreamed of handling with such ease. "Lieutenant Alexandra Buchanan, CIA, and you're a long way from home. Sailors." Initial distrust gave way to tactical necessity, as Thornton quickly recognized both her exceptional skills and their shared predicament. Within minutes, they had established that both their missions had been compromised at the highest levels. Something about this location had triggered a complete communications blackout from American forces. "We discovered a chemical weapons facility." Thornton explained, showing Buchanan the limited intelligence they had gathered. "But there's something else. We found American hostages in the main compound." Buchanan's expression hardened. "How many?" "At least 3. Civilians, contractors, from what we could tell." The revelation changed everything. Both Buchanan and Thornton knew there was no walking away now, regardless of their own compromised situations. A rescue operation with their limited resources would be nearly suicide, but the alternative was unthinkable. Together, they formulated a plan that played to their combined strengths. Keller and Buchanan would establish a sniper team to clear an extraction route, while Thornton would lead the rest of the SEAL team to recover the hostages. Their only chance was to create enough chaos to complete both objectives before enemy reinforcements could arrive. As dawn approached, they set their plan in motion. Buchanan and Keller positioned themselves on overlooking ridges, their rifles, creating precise corridors of safety through which the SEAL team advanced. The rescue initially proceeded as planned, with Thornton's team successfully reaching the hostages. Then everything went wrong. A hidden enemy position opened fire on the retreating SEALs, pinning them down with the rescued hostages, one of whom was badly injured. From her position, Buchanan saw the trap closing. Enemy fighters were converging from multiple directions. Without hesitation, she abandoned her secure sniper nest, moving into direct combat to provide covering fire for the pinned team. Her appearance on the battlefield created momentary confusion among the enemy forces, allowing the SEALs to begin moving the hostages toward extraction. Thornton, seeing Buchanan now exposed and surrounded, made his own decision. Against all tactical doctrine, he turned back, leading 2 of his men to support her position. "I ordered you to get those hostages out," Buchanan shouted as Thornton slid into cover beside her. "And leave the best shot I've seen in 10 years behind?" He returned, calmly picking off an advancing fighter. "Not a chance, Lieutenant." Their final stand became the stuff of whispered legend among Special Forces operators, how a disavowed CIA operative and a compromised SEAL team held off overwhelming enemy forces long enough for the hostages to reach safety. When ammunition ran critically low, they fought with captured weapons. When those were exhausted, they used knives and bare hands. Against all odds, when the rescue helicopter finally arrived, guided in by the remaining SEALs, both Thornton and Buchanan were still standing, bloodied, exhausted, but unbowed by the silence that had abandoned them to their fate.